And we are back with another episode of Mess to Mission, and it is a T Swift launch day, people. So I am even more elated just because, it's October 3rd, and that's just how the flow is flowing. But I had a reschedule today with Ashley Jefferson because we had to fight the actual internet breaking. So that has not wanted our stars to align. So I am super excited. Ashley, thank you so much for being here today. And if you don't mind to just tell the audience a little bit about you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy we got through the rescheduling gremlins and
Yes.
they let us have this conversation today. My name is Ashley Jefferson. I am Jersey raised. I would love to say born and raised, but my mom's from the Bronx and she had me in New York. But I'm a Jersey girl through and through. It's where I reside today, very much so part of my identity. And about me personally, so I'm the eldest daughter of three kids. Yes.
Yes.
Cheer on
Eldest
eldest daughter.
daughters. Yes.
Yes,
Unite.
exactly. Eldest daughters unite. I always feel like that's important to put in how I introduce myself because it is just so much of my identity. And I have two amazing parents who have really continue to support me, have always supported me. And so I'm just really lucky to have them in my corner, great family and friends. Professionally, I am a product person. So I work in tech product management. At first, I was doing that in big companies. And so I worked for a pretty big insurance company here in New Jersey and then a global bank before being like, I can't do this anymore.
Hmm.
It's awful in the sense that when you get to that point in working where it just all feels really heavy and
Yes.
no matter how much you try to push through something, you're realizing that there's just no gas in the tank. And I'm sure for you and for a lot of people listening, COVID was very transformational time. I can honestly say that it was one of the first times in my life where I had the ability to sit still. And as I started to sit still, I started to realize what was really important to me. And work is important to me. I find purpose through work, but my relationships outside of work, my health, and that's mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, is also really important to me. And I just wasn't getting the environment and respect that I needed to continue going in corporate. And so I remember it was a it was the last Sunday of April and I called my parents just sobbing and was like, I truly cannot do this anymore. And my dad, love that man, love my parents. My dad was like, quit. And I didn't think he was going to say that because he is an immigrant. He immigrated to this country, now a citizen. But I know that from that like American immigrant mindset, how important it is to have stability. And I just felt like in that moment, I was saying, thank you so much for everything that you have done to create stability for me. But I really need to go a different way. And for me, that meant leaving corporate. And so May 2023, I went in, I resigned, and by June, I was fully out of the corporate game and just trying to figure out what to do. And then the last 2 years have definitely been a journey. I feel like I'm not finished yet. The journey is still in
Yes.
progress,
Yes.
but it's great to see where I was and where I am now. And I just love that I'm in a very evolved place. I'm at peace. And I really like my story so far.
I think it's so important though. Like, life's too short. And that's one of the things, especially I have three kids and life's too short. My husband and I talk often about, we don't have anyone in the baby phase. We don't have anyone in the little kid phase. We've grown out of that, and watching them be in these seasons, we want to be present for that. And we both worked in corporate. That's actually how we met. And it's hard. It's hard to dedicate to a full-time corporate job that is demanding, and it would be great if we didn't wanna have a family or, like, exist or, like, come home and take showers and, like, be normal human beings, because corporate is hard. but you have to be at peace with what you're doing. You
You have
absolutely have to be at peace with what you're doing, and you have to find that joy, whether it's in a fandom or you like watching your kids do something. But tell us a little bit about kind of what made you start your business. Because I say this every episode. I met another friend on the internet today, people, and I want to learn about her business and kind of how she's growing and starting and all the things.
oh my goodness, yes. So I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just never knew how that was going to shake. And I've gone to Catholic school my whole life. God is a very big part of my journey. And so, they always say that when you make plans, God laughs. And my vision of going into entrepreneurial path was it had roses and flowers and butterflies, and I was gonna work my
Yep.
corporate job and stand up, something on the side. And I was going to do that until I felt confident to leave my corporate job and do this full time. And obviously, that's not what happened. So when I had made the decision to quit, I didn't have a plan. And to some, I know that that can sound pretty reckless. However, I felt so called to disengage from corporate the way I did. And I am someone who I think God speaks to those who believe. I think God speaks to all of us through signs. And it was so funny because specifically in that role, I noticed that I would just get irritable around people. And so I would finagle my in-office days to be when I knew the floor was empty, but I could still satisfy that in-office requirement. And just as I was getting comfortable with that, the next week they announced that they were switching the in-office days to the days I was going to the office.
It's not
So,
gonna work. It's not
yeah,
gonna work.
and so when those things happen, you're like, yeah, okay, time to go. So I say all that to say that if I had a choice in the matter, I would have done this with a little more planning, but I didn't have a choice in the matter. And I just had to go about how I felt like I was called to go about it. So what I did the first couple months was get really clear on like, well, do I have an idea? And I was like, well, no, I don't have an idea at this moment, even now, I don't have one singular idea that I care to execute on, but I knew that I really liked helping businesses come to life. And having this tech product background and participating in what they call product thinking, which is really product thinking slash, human centered design is another term that comes up. It's really about if you want to create something, center the person who you're creating it for. So, what are their pain points on any array of topics? Where do you think that there is an underserved need in the market? And what unique perspective do you have to come and solve that problem? And so I really liked thinking from that lens. And I noticed in corporate that I didn't feel like, even though I knew that those were the principles, I didn't feel like corporations were taking that foundation seriously. And then as I started to shift to the startup space, I also realized that people were just kind of going headfirst with their idea and not being super thoughtful about how to begin, at least approaching it. And so understanding that I really have this thoughtfulness and detail and pattern recognition of being able to understand what's happening in the market, bringing it together and seeing what opportunities and insights appear. I was like, okay, I still want to do that, even though I'm not in corporate. And so at first I had stood up just a consultancy and I had called it Ashley Grace Consultancy. It's not that now. It's Startup Baddie now, which I love and I think it's more aligned with my
Hey
personality.
to a brand. Hey to
Yes,
a brand.
exactly. So it's just more in line with me. But that is really what started my business was this realization of like, no, I really like what I'm doing. It's not what I'm doing. It's just how I bring it to the world and how I apply it. And so it's now become working with founders and medium-sized companies from the perspective of product, but then as I've gone through these last 2 years, it's also appreciating community. And there are a lot of concepts in the product world where we say, talk to your customers. And it sounds really good. It is the right thing to do, but no one talks about how to do that effectively. And so what ends up happening is a lot of times companies end up only engaging their target demographic when they're about to build something new or launch something, when really it needs to be an ongoing conversation. And I, on the side, have started a future of work community here in New York, New Jersey, and it has been, I have realized community is one of the easiest ways to make sure that you're in a constant loop with the person that you're serving. And I really think community is the future, and it's going to be something that we'll see brands lean into more and more.
I love that. Yeah, I think about it from an operational standpoint, going back to what you said about like small businesses, how individuals jump in. So, kind of what I have done on my side is you're like the thought partner kind of walking them through that, and then I'm the one in the background being like, "Did you get a business license? Are you legal? Is the IRS going to come to your front door?" Because I have met people who have bought food trucks, but they've never worked in a restaurant and they've never curated a menu and they don't know what licensings they need. I love the aspiration of buying that food truck, but if you don't have any of the core pieces behind it, I don't know how substantial this is going to be. And then you're just going to have a truck with a window when it's all said and done. And I think that fear holds a lot of people back, but there are people in that industry that, such as yourself, that can sit down and help you say, hey, let's map that out. Let's talk about what you need to do or what you need to set up systematically or kind of building in. There's some people I don't even know that the internet exists. And I'm like, guys, you can look up everything on Google or at the library. I promise you don't have to spend millions of dollars on some mastermind that some guru sold on the internet. Like, go to the library, use Google. I promise it will be fine. But as you're
True.
kind of guiding through and creating these things that you want to do with your business, what are some of the things that you're finding either with your clients or that you're maybe it's a reoccurring thing with your clients, like things they're not doing or things that they are doing that you're like, hey, I have a little bit of a different perspective on this.
Goodness, there are so many things. I'll start with one that is more, it's not about my specific function, but I think it's just behavior overall. There is a lot of hustle culture content and advice out there. And yes, I more so believe that there is times to hustle. There's hustle sprints, let's call them, in the sense that to think that you should be working till 1 a.m. every day, inclusive of weekends, that is not how this works. We A lot of business decisions is making sure that we have the cognitive ability to be able to properly weigh pros and cons of a situation. And you cannot do that with lack of sleep, lack of nutrition, lack of hydration. All of that is really important. And I wish that there was more content out there about the nuance of building a business. Example, the past 2 weekends for me have been weekends where at least on Saturday, I'm working a full day. I'm in that sprint right now, right? So maybe that sprint is for 2 more weekends. But then I'm not working another weekend for at least 2 weeks. I'm going to give myself time to just regulate because creativity comes to me, and I believe this for the broader swath of people. Sometimes when you're not thinking about the thing, it's when you're not thinking
Mm.
about the thing that the answer drops in. It's when you're off with family and friends, engaging in play, that you just give your brain a second for everything to marinate and then the answer comes to you. Or within that experience, the answer comes to you. And so overall, I think that I really try to approach my engagement with founders and just fellow people in this building space in a way where I'm accounting for that. And I actually use that as a vetting tool. I've seen posts where people are talking about, we're looking for a self starter, someone who can hit the ground running. We're a rocket ship. Okay, but not like once I hear the we're a rocket ship, I'm like, okay, I appreciate the hustle, but there has to be a balance. And I just don't sense there being nuance. It's not for me. So I think that's
Also, we're sending Katy Perry to space. I don't wanna hear nothing about a rocket ship. Girl, I don't wanna hear nothing about no rocket ships, no hustle, nothing. Like, I don't
so
even know if we
sweet.
got real astronauts anymore. Let's be real here.
Well, let's be real here. So it's so true. So that really grinds my gears and it's something I'm really passionate about. And I try to inject in the conversations that I have either on the internet in person. I would say from like a product lens, I really do think that people don't take time to get to the center of what makes them different. People a lot of times lean on things like, we're the Amazon of this or the Uber of that. And I understand that it's a cheeky phrase that people can latch on to, but at the end of the day, that's not what makes you sustainable, is being the Uber of something. Or there was an app that I saw at South by Southwest when I went earlier this year and it said, well, we're better than TikTok. Okay? Like that, but that's not a reason for someone to opt in to what you're buying. Um
Yes.
and one last thing I'll say is that I would love for people to understand that sometimes differentiation doesn't come overnight. Sometimes it's 6 months of immersing yourself in the problem, the need, testing things for then differentiation to emerge, and that's okay. But you have to at least it has to be something that is top of mind to know that at some point I need to be able to clearly articulate why I'm solving the need better than others, and I feel like just a lot of companies, whether they're big or small, miss it.
I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs even miss it, if I'm being honest. Like, I mean, girl, I know you got threads. We're on there, and sometimes it's like somebody says something about a virtual assistant, and it's like 300 people are like, I'm the best virtual assistant. And I'm like, well, all 300 of you can't be the best. So, like, what do you do? Well, I assist with X, Y, and Z. Okay, but don't all, like, isn't that the literal definition of assistant? Like, give me something. And so, same with marketing. Marketing, a lot of times they are like, I am top of mind in Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. And it's like, okay, but that's really all there is. Like, unless you're gonna be in Pinterest, like, what else you got? I need something that's gonna entice me to want to work with you.
It's exactly that, and we've lost the art on it because speed is being rewarded, not speed and the story that you're telling and why it's different. It's speed that's being rewarded. Hustle.
Yes. So much hustle. Well, as you're kind of diving into your journey, what is one thing that, or one resource that you wish you would have known about prior to starting a business, or something that you were like, dang, why didn't y'all tell me this sooner? Like, what's something that you wish you would have known about?
That's such a good question. I ended up so there's a couple of things. I ended up figuring out your local chamber of commerce. I think that's a great place to be, whether you work in tech. I know that at least Hudson counties, where I am, the my local chamber of commerce tends to be more like brick and mortar, maybe a little more traditional businesses, but it's still really important to immerse yourself with other business owners in your local community to understand what things have they encountered and how have they overcome them. And I think submersing myself in that as early as possible would be great, or just even understanding all of the opportunities that they provide from networking, education, all that stuff. Do it. The second thing I wish I understood more is how to price myself. I really messed that one up when I left. I thought it was easy as taking my corporate salary, backing into an hourly, all of a sudden I was signing up for health insurance and that was $350 a month. And I'm like, geez, I totally did not factor in that or, just some very standard business costs. And I wish that there was everyone kind of talks about it, but they talk around it. So you never really
Mhm.
understand what pricing you means. Yes, there's an aspect of it that is objective and based off of like, maybe years of experience and just experience in general. But then there are very basic things that you should be considering in pricing, things like covering certain costs in healthcare and stuff like that. And I wish someone told me that because I really was just so keen on getting out of corporate and locking in something else that I locked myself into an hourly that was really hard to come back from initially. And I would say the third thing is we live in a society where if your business isn't popping overnight, then like something's wrong with you. Uh, and really what as there have been other business owners that I've started to come into contact with that have told me, yeah, I didn't really start to feel solid until 3 years in, which sounds like a long time, but time passes. So 3 years are going to pass whether you stay at corporate or start your business. And I think that I would have been less frustrated with myself along the way if I understood that that was more of the timeline, number one. And number two, if I understood as part of that timeline, there may be a time where I face a winter, as I like to call it, where it's just like there's some things coming in, but the faucet isn't kind of coming through as fast and furious as you want it to.
Yes.
And that also is normal and okay, and that doesn't always signal that there's something wrong with you and your business.
I love that, but I wanna step back into the pricing thing because I think that's
Yeah.
so hard. So, we actually have like an SBA. So I'm in Kentucky and we have an SBA partnership that I work directly with these two great individuals. And so I send people to them because it's a free resource. They will write your complimentary. They will sit down with you, learn what you want to do, write your business plan. They will help you figure out the pricing, your salary, your all of that. And it's all free. And so I think a lot of people don't know that resources like that exist because you're like trying to chat GPT it because like you said, everything is an emergent, everything. And you're like asking AI, like, hey, how do I find health insurance? Well, it just spits out some hodgepodge, but getting intentional with the resources, especially state by state, and knowing what all is offered, what all so they are basically they take the business plan and they also send it to bankers and that way they can help you with funding and things like that. But there's so many resources that looking back now, I was like, dang, I probably could have used those.
Ooh, and I'm going to still check into the SBA. That sounds really useful. I agree.
Yeah, so I've absolutely loved just working with those 2 because I know what I want to price myself as, but if I'm taking you on as a client, I don't wanna be like, "Tell me about the cost of your mortgage. Tell me about the cost," like, that's none of my business. That's between you and the Lord. So for them to and it's an actual, like, entity that is going to assist you on those journeys, and then we take that plan, you bring back to me the parts of it that you want, and we build out the operations part. So that has always been just a neat partnership that I think people kind of forget about. But as we kind of wrap up and navigate the end of this podcast, how can people connect with you further or kind of hear about what you're doing, come down the pipeline, things of that?
Yes. So there's a couple of ways to connect with me. Being a practitioner is like one aspect of what I do. However, I've learned that you have to make yourself visible online so that people can find you. And so I do that by creating content on LinkedIn, Ashley Grace Jefferson, MBA on LinkedIn. I also am very active on threads at Startup Baddie on threads, at Startup Baddie on Instagram. Yes,
I love
that's where
threads.
that is thread. Threads is I tell everyone, get on threads. You are missing out.
My ADHD loves threads so much because I'm just like, it's like here's content that's applicable. Here's things that I'm mad about today. Like, here's my thought on this random thing that you don't care about, but I don't care. Somebody will read it. It'll be fun.
Someone reads it and they follow you and they engage with you. So yes, at Startup Baddie on Threads, at Startup Baddie on Instagram. And then I have a Beehive where I publish monthly newsletters. I'm actually a little late on this month, but by the time this airs, it'll be out where I do basically month in review. So I talk about key things that happened in my business that month and just what I've learned through it in hopes that someone else can read that and either resonate with it or ask questions. And then I talk about what I'm thinking about on like a bigger level, but I haven't been able to bring it to life yet. What I'm dreaming about and just my goals for the next month and also what I'm reading. There you go. That's the third category. But yeah, I think it's startup dash baddie. And that really has been a great way for me to interact with people and for people to get to know me.
I love it. Ashley, thank you so much for being here and joining us on Mess to Mission. I cannot wait to stalk you more on threads because that's who I am as a person and just to get to follow your journey. So I'm super excited for you, but thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.